Hello everyone, Mehdi Photocure from mine. And today we're going to see why Google should be absolutely in your portfolio. So yes, indeed, there has been a lot of talk about Google search dying. It may be true, but this is definitely not the point today. And we will see together why Google is going to be the #1 stock you have to have in your portfolio. The real reason why you need Google in your portfolio, and that's not for buyback, and that's not for Google search. So first, let's talk about the obvious, the elephant in the room, the death of Google search. So a lot of people are afraid of investing in Google, mainly because they are afraid that their core business and their core cash cow, Google search, is going to die off very soon. So that's one thing that we have to agree, and that I think that a lot of people are going to agree on, is that Google search is going to actually die off. The question now is that, is it going to die very soon, or is it going to be a slow death, which is going to let Google actually be able to grow in other verticals? So as of today, I'm more in the camp of search being or having a slow death, mainly because a lot of people, they're not living in like Twitter, they're not living on the internet all the day. And so which means that they are still using Google. Not everybody is using ChatGPT all day long. So a lot of people are still relying on Google, and I think that a lot of searches and commercial searches are still going to be on Google and for a very long time. Having said that, the reality is that Google search does not really matter for Google at the moment. The way they're going to integrate AI in all their products and how they're going to grow as an AI first company is much more important for them. So as long as Google search can actually survive a few years, Google is going to be fine, and it's going to be one of the best opportunity in the world, especially because they're going to dominate AI. So why Google is going to dominate absolutely AI tomorrow is because they have the full stack of capability for AI. They have the products, they have the data, they have the hardware, and they have the models. So with all these different capabilities, I think it's the only company today who has all the weapons to actually win this AI war. And they're actually like getting ahead today, as we can see with their Gemini 2.5 Pro model, which is actually one of the best, especially for coding. They have their Google DeepMind labs, where we can see that they are really like on the front line on a lot of different research. They have Waymo, for example, for autonomous navigation. And even like on the DeepMind labs, you have robotics, you have pharma, for example. And what we are going to see is that actually Google is going to dominate not only in what we know of AI today, but every single verticals in terms of industries where AI is going to be applicable. And this is actually going to actually transform companies as we see them, because what we're going to be able to see is that companies like Google are going to become a real force in industry like automobile or like pharma, for example. So that's why, in my mind, Google is definitely one of the best options for you if you want to leverage the play on AI today. Indeed, Google has all the capabilities to become an AI leader, and we're going to see like why they're going to dominate on the 4 key pillars of AI today. So product, data, hardwares, and models. And so basically, if we look at what Google has under its umbrella, we can see that they have all these capabilities and they are very strong on all of them. And that's why we are very confident that Google is going to dominate. But let's go through one by one, and we will see what inside Google is actually going to help them go to the next level in terms of AI. So first, in terms of products, so what we can see is that Google is going to be able to leverage AI in a lot of different products. So if we start with Google Search, what we have seen so far is that Google has started to include AI in Google Search, which is actually the website the most visited in the world and one of the products the most used in the entire world. And so within Google Search, we have seen 2 things. We have seen first AI overviews, meaning that on top of usual Google searches, what we are getting is actually summaries, which actually help the user getting information much more rapidly and much more clearly. And the second thing is what we call AI mode, or what Google calls AI mode. And this is actually kind of the user interface of what we are used to with Google, Gemini, and ChatGPT. And so they are including that now directly into Google search. And this is going to be a game changer because more and more people are going to be exposed to Google AI. And so after that, Google has also a lot of different consumer products which are very successful with billions of users. So first, if we start with the G Suite, with basically Gmail, Google Docs, Google Sheet, etc. So what we're going to see also is that Google is going to include more and more all their AI tools within these products, and so more and more people are going to be exposed to Google AI. And with YouTube, we are already seeing a lot of summaries of videos, recommendations based on AI. And so that's why we can also foresee that Gemini models and Google AI is going to actually transpire within this other very successful Google product, which is YouTube. And we can also talk about Gemini, because Gemini, if we look at the latest numbers, is actually growing much faster than ChatGPT. It's true that it's coming from a lower base, but what we can see is that actually Google Gemini is becoming a competitor very close to what we have with ChatGPT from OpenAI. And definitely Google is going to be one of the key player in this consumer AI industry thanks to Gemini, and with Google Search they will actually be one with the most, I would say, distribution. So that's how Google is going to be able to leverage AI within all these different core products. And we haven't even talked about enterprise products. And the number one enterprise product is basically ads for Google. And with their new Gemini model, they're going to be able to optimize ads for basically marketers and companies in the same way Facebook has been doing it. And so what we're going to see is that we're going to see much more efficiency for Google and for their clients in the way they are serving ads, and it's going to actually hit the bottom line for Google and for their clients, meaning that we will have much more targeted ads basically, and that may be sold actually at a much higher price. So what we're going to see is that in terms of products, AI is going to be a big beneficiary for Google, and Google is definitely going to dominate on this side. Then the second pillar is about data. So to actually be able to train their models and to improve their models and to have models also that can be used on very personalized data, one key aspect is to be able to access proprietary data or data from the users. And actually Google, thanks to their dominance in terms of products that we have seen just before, they are going to be able to leverage these data with their own models to deliver an experience which is much more personalized and targeted than other competitors like OpenAI. And so that's why we are seeing today OpenAI trying to launch their new browser and to try to have more and more access to people's data. But today the leader on that front is still Google. And with Google Chrome and with Google Search and the G Suite, we can see that Google can leverage all this data to basically help the user get a more targeted and personalized experience. And then we also have YouTube. So basically all the video models from Google, they are trained on YouTube, and basically nobody can actually replicate that. And we can even see and envision a future where all the competitors, they are kind of barred from using YouTube data to actually train their models, and this will give a great competitive advantage for Google. So what we can see here is that Google basically has a huge advantage in terms of data. And this is also true for Waymo. Sorry, I just forgot this one. So they're also going to be able to get a lot of data, a lot of mileage in the same way Tesla has been doing over the years, thanks to their Waymo fleet. And this is going to improve their models, not only for Waymo by se, but also for the robotics arm of Google DeepMind. So you can see that there are a lot of synergies and a lot of data that actually Google can leverage to personalize the experience of their Google products, but also to train new type of models. Then let's talk about hardware. So this discussion is going to be split into two parts, so semiconductors and robotics. So the first thing we want to discuss about semiconductors and basically chips is the fact that Google has been able to develop their own semiconductors specifically designed for AI workloads. So that's what we refer usually as TPUs. And so these TPUs give Google an advantage first in terms of cost, not only because this has been designed by Google and gives them like some kind of better margin than what NVIDIA has, but also the fact that TPUs are much more efficient for these AI workloads and so are basically cheaper. And we can see that also being reflected in the prices that we can see on Google Cloud for Gemini models, where the API cost is a bit lower than all their competitors. And definitely Google is making much more money than OpenAI, for example, in the usage of their models. So that's a huge advantage. And that's a very important advantage, especially when we consider the fact that Google will deliver and will serve all these AI workloads to all their different product lines. So this is a scale advantage that no one has today on the market, even Microsoft in some regards. And so that's why we can consider that on the hardware part, Google is definitely one level above everybody else. And so then in terms of robotics, so we know that the next step in terms of AI is basically physical AI, meaning robots. And with Google DeepMind and the DeepMind robotics part and Waymo, so what we're going to see is that in terms of hardware, like Google is also getting better and better, and they're actually going to be one of the key players in this phase of physical AI and robotics. And so definitely, so when we talk about hardware, Google is also at the top of the game in terms of AI for hardware. So that's the third point and why Google is going to have all the capabilities to dominate in terms of AI. And the next one we want to discuss is about models, or let's say models and research. So as we've been able to see in the past few months, so Google has developed one of the best models on the market with Gemini 2.5 Pro, and they are expected to continue to actually release one of the best models on the market and also one of the most efficient in terms of cost. So that's, I would say, for the LLM part. And we have seen with Veo 3 that Google has the best model for videos today. They have one of the best models for images as well. But that's not only that. What we have seen is that with Google DeepMind, in terms of research, Google has been able to develop some models which are actually have no match from other competitors. So one example is Google DeepMind for diffusion, so Gemini diffusion. So this is actually a much faster way of generating text in this example that nobody has actually been doing so far. This is going to be very important in phases where latency is going to be very important. So we can think about real-time chat or just assistants in robots, for example. But what we can see is that Google is at the forefront of the research in terms of model as well, and they are definitely going to dominate on these fourth capabilities, definitely. So another thing that people really underestimate about Google is that they have the Google DeepMind lab. And Google DeepMind, which is led by Demis Hassabis, is actually one of the best AI lab in the world. And the proof of that is that last year they had 2 Nobel Prizes. So what we can say about that is that actually Google is leading in terms of research. They have been the one who invented the transformers, which actually led to ChatGPT and all this wave of basically AI chatbots and large language models. But what we can foresee in the future and what we have to bet on is that Google has the best researcher in the world in their labs with Google DeepMind. And with that, they are really going to be able to come up with incredible technological innovations that are going to allow them to continue to dominate in terms of AI. So if you're buying Google today, you're not buying it for Google search, you're not buying for Gmail, but you should buy Google because they have the best AI research in the world. I think this is a pretty simple thesis. Obviously, it's not grounded into current numbers. These numbers are very good, but if you want to project the trajectory of Google and the fact that maybe it's going to become one of the best AI companies in the world, you have to look at that and you have to be aware that in terms of AI capabilities, Google has all the weapons required to actually grow and be one of the best companies in the world. A prime example of how Google is going to dominate many industries and many verticals thanks to AI is basically Waymo. So as we can see today, Google is only one of the two biggest players in the market for autonomous vehicle with Tesla. And this is thanks to all their efforts in terms of AI and how they have been able to develop the hardware on one part, but also the software internally. And so I think we will continue to see that in other industries such as pharma or robotics, for example, and we will see that Google is going to be one of the key players in a lot of different industries. And by doing that, they're going to become one of the most important companies in the world. So it will take some time to actually pan out, definitely. But what you're going to be able to see is that Google is going to, and I'm repeating myself and again, is going to be one of the most dominant AI company in the world. So that's why it is very important that it is in your portfolio if you have a long-term horizon, especially at the current valuation. That does not take into account the fact that Google is going to dominate not only the search business, but a lot of other industries. Another key strength of Google is basically Google Cloud. So what was actually a subpar or like a third-tier hyperscaler up until like a few years ago has become today one of the most prominent AI cloud in the market. And so what we are seeing with Google basically is that it's going to be one of the most important hyperscaler in the planet, especially for AI workloads. And so what we have seen is that thanks to TPUs and thanks to the proximity of Google to other startups, so today Google is the #1 choice for any AI startup. And this has actually leveled the playing field for Google. And this is something that is going to transpire in the coming quarters, and we're going to see a reacceleration of Google Cloud and all these numbers. And especially in terms of margin, what we're going to see is that we're going to see an increase in terms of margin and Google Cloud becoming one of the most important drivers for Google profitability. So let's talk about valuation. So we've seen that Google is one of the best AI pick in your portfolio and is going to be a leader in terms of AI, definitely. But then if we look at the valuation, there is kind of a mismatch between the fact that Google is going to become one of the best companies in the world in terms of AI and the fact that they are trading today at a 20p ratio. And what we can actually see is that even analysts, like they forecast $12 in terms of EPS for 2027, and which is actually going to be much higher in terms of stock price in 2027 if we consider the fact that we remain at the same low P ratio. So the valuation for Google is actually pretty low, especially if we compare with other tech giants like Microsoft or like even Meta, for example. So this definitely makes it a very appealing opportunity today in the market, because on one side we have the fact that Google is going to be one of the most dominant player in terms of AI. And on the other side, we have a very reasonable and cheap valuation for one of the key players, which is going to continue to grow thanks to AI, but also thanks to a lot of different opportunities that they have on the market. And let's not forget as well that in terms of shareholder returns, Google is actually buying back almost 3% of the float every year. And on top of that, they also have a small but still existing dividend of 0.5%. So in terms of all these different elements for the stock return, you can definitely bet that in the next 5 years, you can have a 15% return CAGR with Google stock. So definitely the point today is that Google is going to be a very attractive opportunity as a sleeper AI pick, and definitely it should be in a portfolio. So that is why Google have to be in your portfolio. So first, the depth of Google search does not really matter, because Google is going to become the most dominant AI company in the world. And why is that? Because they have all the capabilities that an AI company should have: products, data, hardware, and models. And that's why they're going to dominate the whole AI field, and they're going to be one of the most valuable companies in the world because of this AI dominance. So if you're still interested in other news and other analysis like this, so feel free to subscribe to my channel and check my other videos, and see you in another one. Bye.